And y'all have done a very good job quietly coming in, taking a seat. So we will begin the meeting in probably 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. 3 and yeah. And any of you who happen to have your cell phones with you, if you turn those off or to silent, that would be appreciated. And we will begin the meeting. It is exactly 9:30. Thank you all for being here today. Most of you know that if you want to speak, you fill out a card and you will have 3 minutes to tell us what's on your mind. And first speaker is Dr. Phil. I'm sorry, Dr. Phil. I call my pastor doctor, but
it's okay.
As healing as you are, I know you've got to be a doctor of something.
Absolutely.
Father Phil.
Good morning, County Council Chair Kelly and all our county council members. My name is Philip Egito. I pastor Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church, and I live at the rectory at 304 Cornell Drive, Daytona Beach. And me and my community are part of faith. It's no secret that our county suffers from homelessness. Men, women, and even children living in cars and on the streets. Year after year, Faith advocated for a desperately needed homeless assistance center, but struggled to gain needed support from our local leaders. But with new leadership in 2017, the council answered the call and stepped up to the plate. First Step Shelter is a reality because of your commitment to ensuring our community is a great place to live and work for everyone. But as we all know, First Step Shelter is only the first step in addressing a multi-layered problem. The severe lack of affordable housing, rental options in our county is not only causing homelessness, it is also a major hindrance in addressing it. The goal of First Step Shelter is to get our homeless brothers and sisters back on their feet and back to work. But right now, thousands of people who are working can't even afford the homes and apartments they are in. Over half of all Volusia renters are paying too much for housing. That is more than 30% of their income for their housing. 1/3 of these households in our area are what are called severely cost burdened, which means they are paying over half of their income on rent. In fact, the Daytona metro rate of severe cost burden is higher than even New York City or San Francisco. Why is this happening? Look at the facts. A minimum wage worker would have to work 79 hours a week to afford a standard one-bedroom apartment at the fair market value. The mean wage for rental households in our county is $13 an hour, and that's the mean wage. There are many living well below that. Yet even at that mean wage, someone working 40 hours a week can't afford a one-bedroom apartment. At Our Lady of Lourdes, we do what we can. We, like many congregations, maintain an active food pantry where folks struggling to get by can get at least food. I myself and many pastors have used our personal money to help people pay their rent or electric bill or their water bill to keep them from being out on the street. But that's not enough. It's not sustainable. Faith is urging this body to take the next step, to develop plans for a local affordable housing trust fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Phil. Ben Collins and Jackie Mole, you will be after Ben Collins. If you would, make your way quickly. And Jackie, you will be following him.
Good morning, Council. My name is Reverend Ben Collins. I'm the founder and pastor of Collective United Methodist, which is a part of Faith, and the president of the Main Street DeLand Association. I live at 732 North Stone here in DeLand. I wanted to thank the 40-plus people we've got on site and the thousands more around the county who are praying not only for this council, but praying for justice through this council. As I think you know, as we just heard, the severe lack of affordable housing in Volusia threatens economic viability in our entire area. And not only am I personally called to protect the sacred nature of economy in my parish, but as the president of the Main Street Board, I don't only do historical preservation, but economic development. Undoubtedly, the new jobs that are being created, and there are, like Tanger Outlets and One Daytona, present the flip side of the problem, which is the question about how many of these new jobs can pay their workers enough to comfortably afford an apartment in our cities. As Father Phil said, even good jobs that pay workers $15 an hour those workers would still have to work over 40 hours just to afford the bare minimum one-bedroom apartment at the fair market rate. And to be clear, pardon me, even finding that at the fair market rate is almost impossible. But beyond the economic cost, as the leader of a faith community, I think very much about the human cost. Like the single mother in our congregation, highly educated with a master's degree in aerospace engineering, about to complete a second master's degree, working over 50 hours a week, living in a modest two-bedroom apartment, still paying over half of her income in rent. We can't go on like this. We need a game changer, a mechanism to create affordable housing opportunities for families that need it, while using the passion, ingenuity, the for-profit and non-profit development minds in our community to create an affordable housing trust fund to address these significant issues. I want you to imagine a priest in his study after a long day of masses, mass after mass after mass. And as he relaxes, a frantic knock comes at the door, and there's a hulking man, sweating, breathing heavily. He's clearly run to the parish house. And he says, Father, there's a crisis in town. There's a homeless mother. The husband has just left. There are 4 kids. It's going to freeze tonight. And if they don't pay rent, the landlord is going to kick them out on the street. The priest says, we can do something. This is what the church does. Come in. Let's figure this out. So they manage to pull some money together. He's about to send it back on his way, and he says, tell me, my son, what's your connection with this family? And he says, I'm the landlord. We are both compassionate neighbor and responsible landlord. Affordable housing is ours to provide or to withhold, and we must address the contradictions between our professed values as a community and the growing homeless crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie? Oh. Melissa Lammers, you will be next, so if you will be ready.
Chairman Kelly, council members, commissioners. My name is Jackie Mole, and I live at 6068 Red Stag Drive in Port Orange. And I attend Allen Chapel AME Church in Daytona Beach, and we are a part of Faith. I'm the co-chair of the Faith Affordable Housing Committee. The issue of affordable housing is one that's personal to me. I work in real estate, and my work with HUD, making sure many of our properties are accessible to those in housing vouchers, I know how difficult it is to make ends meet. My faith calls me to do all I can. At my church, we run a housing program called Restoration House, which houses families in need. But the scope of the problem is far greater than that we can do as individuals or even as a congregation. The National Low Income Housing Coalition estimates that our county lacks of rental units that are affordable for working families number over 16,000. In Faith research on this issue, we look far and wide to policy solutions that could help to create affordable housing at the lowest cost. In our conclusion, local affordable housing trust funds have the best track record in doing just that. The state of Florida has a statewide housing fund, and so do 47 other states in the U.S. While getting Sadowski fully funded would be ideal, statewide trust funds are not nearly enough. And that is why over 700 local governments across the country have stepped up to the plate to create their own locally controlled affordable housing trust fund. Take, for instance, Louisville, Kentucky Trust Fund, which last year awarded grants to 22 projects from private and nonprofit developers. The result, nearly 500 new units of housing and over 800 units were rehabilitated. 100% of those will be affordable to working families in Louisville. The success of local affordable housing trust fund is what convinced commissioners in Hillsborough County last year that they needed to create their own affordable housing trust fund. Faith calls upon this body to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. You have done a good job on your 3 minutes. Sharon Trescott.
Good morning, honorable council members and Manager Rechtenwald. My name is Melissa Lammers. I live at 10 Wisteria Drive in Ormond by the Sea. Today, I represent the steering committee of Volusia Forever for the Environmental Council of Volusia and Flagler counties. The last time I spoke here, I and many others asked that you schedule a workshop for both Volusia Forever and ECHO, and that you place them on the agenda of an upcoming council meeting. Our goal then and now is that we citizens be given the opportunity to vote to reauthorize both initiatives. I am pleased to say that I am here today to thank you for listening to us, since there is a workshop scheduled for this afternoon. I plan to be there. I also attended the Volusia Forever Talking Points meeting held by staff, which included participation by members of the former Volusia Forever Advisory Committee. Others from our council attended a similar ECHO meeting. Both sessions provided valuable background for the program, as well as useful assessments of what has worked well and where some adjustments to implementation may be needed. I think the workshop offers us a great opportunity to take these citizen-led, citizen-approved initiatives and make them even better. I'd also like to draw your attention to communication you have received regarding the Trust for Public Land, or TPL. TPL's involvement was extremely important in 2000 and would, we believe, be of great value today. We urge you to seek their technical assistance as soon as possible. Finally, we still would like you to place Volusia Forever and ECHO on the agenda of an upcoming council meeting. With all of us, citizens, elected officials, and staff doing our part to learn and update our knowledge of these valuable programs, I'm sure that you will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon Trescott.
Hi, I'm Sharon Trescott, 689 Pineland Trail, Ormond Beach. And I'm here to ask my county for some assistance to better understand how my property will be affected by the Ormond Beach runway extension that they're in the process of doing, number 826, that's coming 1,000 feet closer to me and other county residents. I know that we have an interlocal agreement with the county. I have a copy of that, but it doesn't, I'm not with a correct understanding of how it's going to apply and who's going to enforce. It's the city's action, but the county properties are affected. And I've met with a few county employees, and I just don't seem to be able to get the answers that I feel I need as to how the property will. There's maybe no more open fires and glares from water and just different things. It hasn't started yet, but it's my understanding that there's properties that are needing to be obtained for this project to even happen. And I want to state, and I'm going to present a copy here that I want attached to my comments this morning, and I'll leave with you all. There has been no notification to any of us. My property joins the Ormond Airport. I have 300 feet in the back. That's an immediate adjoining, and I was never notified of any of this. So I feel that I don't know whether there's a requirement of that. The EA report that we have been, my neighbors informed me, even the people that they're going to have to sacrifice their property were not notified. And I think there was no public hearing. If it was if it was publicized, it was in a paper. I will be happy to share my response to this when I get it. It's a request for public records with the city of Ormond, but I don't think we're going to find that there was anything, no public hearing, no nothing. So there's some strong questions on the EA report. So if the county has any as an employee from your airport, the county that could just help me look. If I'm incorrect, I'd like to know it. If I'm correct, I think that someone, and it really should be looked at before it happens. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you'll just leave that with the clerk. And we don't make comments, but I'll be happy to talk with you if you'll give me a call, because I was on the Ormond Beach Commission when we did that initially. John Nicholson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. Came with one issue, now I've got five. One, I absolutely support the ECHO and that it should be on the ballot and it should be standalone. I know there's trust issues, but overall, it's a fantastic project and I'm glad we did it. Secondly, I'm driving here. You go down ISB, you're in 10 lanes, then you cram into 6 lanes underneath 95, then you go out to 6 lanes, then you go back to 2 lanes, all within 2 city blocks. It makes absolutely no sense. So I'm asking you to start to think about it now, because it takes like 10 years. I think Heather told me that. So if we're going to do it, think about it now, because there's plenty of room under the bridge so that we don't have to keep going in and out, because it really does jam traffic when you do that. The county building, I'm asking you to consider, again, rushing or hurrying up or considering moving the courthouse from City Island and the county building, rebuilding it, all in one location for synergy reasons. It helps with staffing, it helps with when people travel, if everything is together, rather than getting your car, go here, getting your car, go there, getting your car, go there. If it's all together, one large garage satisfies all of it. And with everything going on in the city of Daytona Beach right now, I think there's like 17 projects downtown. It'd be a great time for synergy and to build Daytona Beach, because Daytona Beach helps everybody with its taxes. And lastly, affordable housing. I understand where they're coming from, but I lived in a city that did affordable housing. We had people from up north come down and say, this is what you have to do. And they didn't want the big Cabrini plazas and all this, the large housing complexes, so they decided to disperse it through the city. They built one high-rise downtown, and every other floor had public housing in it. Well, you don't pay $3,000 a month for rent next to somebody that pays $200 a month for rent if they don't have the same standards. So you really can't urinate in an elevator and consider it okay for the people that are paying maximum amount of money. They also built, every housing development that went up had to have public housing, a section. So they built, we had, back in the day with segregation, we had upscale black housing where the doctors and the lawyers and whatnot lived. There was Emerald Hills, which was an upscale white neighborhood. So they put public housing on the other side, and the through traffic was horrendous. All the doctors and lawyers, the black doctors and lawyers, sold and moved out because of the crime. All the white families moved out because of the crime, and it drove everything down. So I'm asking you to consider where you put your HUD housing, where you put your affordable housing, and where you put your workforce housing. All of them are different, and they all have different people. They have different standards. So look at it carefully. Don't shut anybody out, but be careful. We don't need HUD housing
Thank you, John.
on the ocean, which somebody
Kelly
suggested.
McKee.
Thank you.
Kelly? Sorry, I thought I...
Good morning, Kelly McGee, 372 Heritage Estates Lane, DeLand, Florida, 32720. Mr. Chair, honorable members of County Council, I'm here today to thank you so much for your leadership on ECHO and Volusia Forever. We ask that you consider to put it on the agenda to put it on the ballot so that our residents can vote on both of those programs. And you all have gone above and beyond. You have reached out to our ECHO advisory board members, former Volusia Forever advisory board members, and held several meetings. And I just want to thank you for that, because that's the leadership that we need. I also want to thank you all for the ongoing work that you guys do 7 days a week. On February 8th, we had a water quality update meeting, and Deb Denny's was gracious enough to facilitate that. We had a lot of county staff there. We had, of course, Jeff Crumley, who we can't do anything without, Ginger Adair, Ben Bartlett, Mike Ulrich, and last Saturday, Katrina Locke, Megan Morton, also county employees, worked with Sharitha Dixon from the city of DeLand, And Ms. Gertman drove by and saw the green Volusia van there and stopped in and gave us a really important message, which is when you need something, ask for it. The Resource Center needs furniture. That's not why I'm here today, but it was a really powerful message, and there are a lot of resources to Volusia County. For example, there could be another water quality workshop in West Volusia. I spoke with Jason Evans, the director of the Stetson Institute of Water and Environmental Resilience this morning. They'd be interested in hosting one on the west side. I spoke with Dr. Cho of Bethune-Cookman a couple of weeks ago about what would that look like in Northeast Volusia. The issues are different. You have the springs, and you might have plastics in Northeast Volusia, septic sewer. So, you have resources. All you need to do is ask. And with that, you've got the Trust for Public Lands is willing to do polling for the county on Volusia, Echo, and Forever. And really all you need to do is ask. It's going to be privately funded. And so we thank you for utilizing the resources that you have. And we are here as resources as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Ms. Susie Peace?
Good morning, County Council and all you wonderful people. My name is Susie Peace, like peace sign, and my address is 1571 Allenson Drive, DeLand, Florida, 32724. And I'm here equally as Kelly and Melissa are to thank you for having a workshop to find out more information about these two initiatives. I'm also here because I'm retired, and I remember when I was working full-time, and I know a lot of you are frustrated sitting here today because you have other jobs, and that you've got another agenda going on in your head of what you have to do with that. One reason I was so delighted to retire was so I could go to these meetings and represent my views. So I will be at the meeting this afternoon, and I just wanted to say for what would we do without Echo and Volusia Forever? And I thought I'd just read through a quick list of the projects done in 2000. The African American Museum of Art, Atlantic Center for the Arts, County of Volusia Lake Monroe Park, County of Volusia Frank Rendon Park, Museum of Arts and Sciences, Sands Theater, Athens Theater, the Town of Ponce Inlet, the Lighthouse, Third Order Lens Restoration, and the Lyonia Environmental Center. What would we do without those? And as I said before when I spoke with you, all of these places need to be refurbished at some point. And so getting the citizens back on these initiatives will help our whole county economically and tourism-wise and in lots of other ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie. Is there anyone else that I missed that had a card turned in that I didn't have? If not, we will adjourn this portion of the council meeting and see you back here in 8 minutes. Thank you. Good morning. This is your 1-minute countdown. 1 minute, and we will start the meeting in 1 minute. So those of you who are wandering around looking for a place to seat, if you find one, then we can start, because we will start the meeting at exactly 10 o'clock. You have less than 42 seconds. Right. Right. Abby, do you want me to call you out? Good morning. It is 10 o'clock, and we will call the meeting of the February 18th Volusia County Council to order at this time. And I would ask Pastor Eric Stitz of the First Baptist Church of Daytona Beach to offer the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask council if you'll stand with me.
Amen. Before we pray, I just want to tell each one of you, thank you. This has been a big year for First Baptist Daytona Beach as we relocated from our campus from the late 1800s to our new campus. So all of you have been a great help in that. And I just want to tell you thank you for that help. Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you on this morning that we can stop and do the business of the people in this community. And Lord, we do pray over our community. May our community be one of peace and friendship, be one of great joy, and one of great working together with each other to make it the best community we can have it to be. Lord, I pray over this council this day. Lord, they're going to hear many issues, and I pray that they will have great wisdom today. You tell us in the book of James if we need wisdom to ask. So, Lord, we ask for wisdom today. We pray for our children that are in classes all across this county. God, we pray that not only do they learn a great education, get a great education, but we pray for their physical safety today. Lord, we pray that every one of these children in our classrooms today that will know they're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you've got something great for them. Lord God, we do pray over our community that we will be one that will love you and serve you. And Lord, as a community today, we do pray for Ryan Newman and his family today. As he's in the hospital, Lord, give those doctors wisdom and help as they take care of his physical needs this day. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have to tell y'all, this is my pastor from my church.
And that's where he's from.
Thank you so much for beautiful. You're welcome.
That's exactly
And while he's making his way down, those of you listening, those of you that are here, to offer the invocation is open to anyone. If the leader of your faith community would like to do that, please contact our deputy clerk, and she will make sure that that happens. We'll have the roll call, please, Melissa.
Gertman, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, Dr. Lowry,
Here.
Miss Post,
Here.
Miss Wheeler, Miss Denny's,
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here. Seems like Ms. Gertman. Oh, sorry. Okay. Does anyone wish to comment on any of the consent agenda items or have them pulled for a separate vote? Ms. Post.
I do. I'd like to pull item Q Quebec. Just
Sorry?
simply, I'd like to pull item Q Quebec
Q.
for discussion only.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Motion made by Denny, seconded by Post. Any objection to the motion to approve the consent agenda? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous, and we'll go to item Q. And that is presentations presented outside county council chambers. And your
Good morning. I pulled Q. We have the Human Trafficking Initiatives Day proclamation on here that I had requested to raise awareness about human trafficking. We've had a lot of discussion lately about human trafficking. Last month was Human Trafficking Month, and we had someone come in from the Junior League of Daytona Beach to talk about a lot of the work that they've been doing. But what I also wanted to stress in discussing how many cases we have in Volusia County and across our state, and the great work that's being done by a number of people to combat this and to assist the victims. One of the things that I wanted to be sure of was that past January, come on up, Christy, past January, which is Human Trafficking Month, that we continued to actually have those discussions and continue to talk about it and to work on things. So today I have Christy Gillis, who is from the Freedom 7 Human Trafficking Task Force. She is the chair of that task force, and they work in our circuit. They work in a number of counties surrounding Volusia County to combat this issue and to help victims. So Christy, if you'd just like to say a few things about your work specifically locally and some of the initiatives that you're doing, and then some of the things that people within Volusia County can do to assist. I'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. First, want to describe what human trafficking is. Many times people think it's the movie Taken, and it's not. It is here in our county. Human trafficking is the transporting, soliciting, recruiting, harboring, and providing or obtaining another person for transport for the purpose of forced labor, domestic servitude, or sexual exploitation using force, fraud, or coercion. Last year, from July 1st to June 30th, Florida Department of Children and Families investigated 52 cases of children that were trafficked here in Volusia County. 13 of those cases were verified, and that's a 25% verification rate. The Freedom 7 Human Trafficking Task Force meets on the third Thursday of every month up at Vince Carter Sanctuary. We work in collaboration with law enforcement, Volusia County Sheriff's Department, local law enforcement, as well as FBI and Homeland Security. We have recently started a legislative subcommittee to talk about bills that are coming down and the impact that it will have on our community. We have met with Volusia County schools who, under a mandate, have to educate our children on human trafficking and what that looks like, and that's K through 12 education that will be coming. We have a survivor subcommittee that will be talking about the needs in our community. We also have a services subcommittee and executive committee as well. We post a lot of information on our Freedom 7 Human Trafficking Task Force Facebook page. We're hoping to have some, there's a senator that may be coming and talking about what's going on federally, but it is happening in our community. We are also happy to do other education events as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time today. I also wanted to point out that we have Erin Wersing from Devereaux Advanced Behavioral Health in the audience today as well, who works in tandem with the Freedom 7 Task Force to assist. But thank you so much for coming today, and I was glad to issue those proclamations.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Denise.
If you could just stay at the microphone for just a minute. First of all, I want to thank you, Councilwoman Post, for bringing this to the forefront. So we're talking about federal initiatives. We know that everything that happens is local in our community, and the worst thing is when it impacts one of us, one of our, they're not just children, we know that. So there was a program, I don't know if that's part of this, but if you see something, say something. So anything that you can do to help get that message and that PSAs out for the community with all of our nonprofits, I would be happy to support that initiative and working within our churches and within our nonprofits and our cities and this county government, because this is a growing problem. It's not diminishing, it's growing.
Absolutely.
And it will mean something when it affects somebody that we know or we're on the lookout for a certain area, and I don't want to get too much into the detail of this, but it's a very real problem. It's not a threat. It's an issue that's happening currently. So if we can, we'll take a look at that, be happy to discuss and see what we can do to broaden your message and the scope, and anything that we can do to help get that message out for our citizens. Be happy to assist.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Gertman.
I just want to say the same as far as the support for this issue, how much it impacts the community. I was really surprised on my last trip through Atlanta to hear that messaging. Through every 10 minutes, there was a reminder of, this concern. And to me, that says so much about our society, where we are, and the traveling public, and to be aware. So as disappointing as it is that we have to put that message out there, there's a reason for it. So I think we also need to be ahead of that curve and support our community in the way that we can, especially since we are transient. We get a lot of visitors and tourists and have a lot of events that attract some of those concerns. So certainly anything that I can do for my district and for the county in regards to this, I certainly support, and thank you, Councilwoman Post, for bringing this to the forefront.
And go ahead and have a seat. Thank you very much. And
Thank
if
you.
council would like to have additional information on how we can be involved, we'll bring that back, have staff look at that to bring back a discussion on an agenda item. George, okay? Everyone's okay with that one? We'll move to item number 2, and this is a budget resolution, cost share agreement with the St. Johns River Water Management District. And we have coming to speak to us, Mike Overy.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Michael.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, I'm not gonna use your code name Aquaman, so they're trying to get me to do that, and I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna open up here for Mike and just to say thank you to the staff and to St. John's Water Management District. This is another example of being able to work with other agencies and to leverage. We've talked about this in other scenarios. By council's continued commitment to clean water. It's something that started back in 2014 with our countywide water quality summit that we had, and then the plan that we put together. This is a continuation of those efforts, and very proud of that and the work that we've done. And the result is another project like this that Mike has put together that will ultimately make us more efficient and also help protect Blue Springs. Mike?
Thank you, George. Mr. Chair, council members, good morning. Mike Ulrich, Water Resources and Utilities Director. Dovetailing a little bit off of what George had the manager just mentioned, was in fact, while I've been given the title Aquaman just only too briefly, there's a lot of Supermen and Wonder Women in the audience as well, and throughout our entire organization, growth management and our county utility and legal and all the other staffs. It takes so much effort to bring these things together, as well as the Department of Environmental Protection and the St. Johns River Water Management District. So with that said, let me just guide you through a couple of the elements of this upcoming project. Again, the cost share is made possible through the St. Johns River Water Management District, who has actually executed another agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to make this entire project possible. The Water Management District contributed $1.5 million, and the Department of Environmental Protection has contributed $1.5 million. The only difference in our contract is that we also allowed for, we had two good projects going. Our Stormwater Road and Bridge Department got a grant for $75,000. We basically shared that 1.5 for the Water Management District, used the 75 so that they could advance their project at Thornby Park, and then we took the remaining $1,425,000. So that's at the end of this, you'll see how this divvies up. So there is a lot to show you on this real quick, but I'll get through it very briefly. The Southwest Volusia area, you'll see the 5 municipal cities and some of their boundaries and some of the county infrastructure that exists within this area. This doesn't include any of the infrastructure that would exist within some of the other areas, but for the sake of our strategy and everything, we just wanted to demonstrate some of the infrastructure that's currently in place and how we arrived at this. One of the unique parts is when we think about the springs, Blue Spring and Gemini Springs, as you can see they're identified here, we think specifically about the parks themselves. But in reality, you will see that the Blue Spring Basin and Gemini Spring Basin encompass quite a bit more. The Blue Spring Basin itself is 130 square miles, and Gemini Springs extends all the way down through under the St. Johns and even into Seminole County to a certain extent. And so when you're really looking at these things, it's beyond just the park itself. It essentially encompasses the 5 cities, unincorporated areas, population about 180,000 people. The county had 3 of the 5 municipal wastewater treatment plants that were in this basin, and of course, another key contributor to some of the water quality concerns right now are fertilizer and septic tanks. And so all of these different types of elements are contributing to some of the water quality challenges that we're working to address. And then in 2016, the state legislature identified both Blue and Gemini as outstanding Florida springs. The significance of that is when you take into account that there are over 900, maybe even close to 1,000 springs in all of Florida, is that Volusia County has been blessed with 3 that are considered outstanding Florida springs within the legislature, which, again, we have this marvelous resource, but we also have an incredible responsibility to maintaining, our goals for now and future generations. So I'll focus back in on a couple of the boxes in this one to simplify it just a little bit, is that these are the 3 plants, the 3 county plants that were in existence back in 2014-15 when we started developing our own water quality plan. And pointing out, the Southwest Regional Plant is our largest plant based in DeBary. Fort Towns was in Orange City, and the Del North project is wastewater treatment plant is in the Deltona area. One of the challenges, as identified previously, was that even wastewater treatment plants themselves are identified as part of the problem when they're first addressing some of the nutrient issues. So, if you're going to be part of the problem, maybe the first place you start looking is how do we become part of the solution. And so, the strategies that we started working toward were to essentially assess our existing facilities and plan for advanced treatment at these facilities, because although they were all meeting their DEP compliance requirements at the time, when the new laws came into place, the total maximum daily loads and some of the other water quality standards that were placed in these springs, we basically had to up our game, needless to say. And so we had to plan for advanced treatment capacity, and then really focus not only on just solving the problem, but doing it as most effectively and efficiently as possible. We cultivated partnerships, DEP and St. John's, and then also all of the cities in West Volusia as well, especially on the water supply issues. And above all, we're always trying to think win-win situations with all of these agencies and all these departments, because it's far more important to be focusing on the things that unite you rather than the things that divide you. And I'm telling you that this is probably one of the biggest things when we're addressing issues of water quality. It's a shared responsibility because it's a shared, it's a shared resource by all of us, so therefore it's a shared responsibility. So we moved toward advanced wastewater treatment and expansion at that facility first. That was one of the key steps that we needed to do in addressing some of these things. And that enabled us to essentially decommission the Fort Towns plant in Orange City, because we were able to reroute the water that was being treated there, created some infrastructure, expanded the plant in DeBary, and went to advanced wastewater treatment. Many of you attended the ribbon cutting, if you will, at the plant a couple of years ago. The next phase of this, and what we're discussing today, is the Del North facility. Essentially, we're modeling the exact same thing with Del North, and our ultimate goal will be to eliminate that plant as well. This project calls for the construction of a master lift station to replace the treatment process at Del North and run force main infrastructure about 3 miles connecting to our nearest connection in Orange City and eventually moving it all the way down to DeBerry. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. This particular project that we have right now is made possible through the funding of both the Water Management District and DEP. This agreement calls for $2,925,000. The project, we will be back in front of you within the next 4 to 6 weeks. The project is shovel-ready, design and permitting is all set to go. We'll be back with our contract, our construction contract, in about 4 to 6 weeks, and then we'll be underway. So with that said, we're just a recommended motion. We just need from council.
I think there's no,
There's a motion.
Ms. Dennis, you want to make the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, and then for comment. But I am definitely going to make the motion for the cost share agreement number 34870 with St. John River Water Management District for wastewater infrastructure for the protection of Blue Spring.
Second.
Motion made by Dennis, second by Wheeler. Comments? You want, Ms.
Yes,
Dennis?
yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I think at this stage, you are Mr. Ulrich. Mr. Ulrich.
Prefer that, but thank you.
You're welcome. This project, I'm looking at these logos up here. Could we accomplish this if we just stayed within the city that this dwells, that this project is? Could we accomplish this?
I'm sorry, just
Just staying,
No,
just staying local, staying in our little silo and
as
and
you've
not-
said, local or regional, it's a new local. This is.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you've said it, so then we're just copying it now. But it's very true. I mean, these projects are made possible, I think, early on when these challenges were coming down to us. We're talking to DEP and St. John's almost individually. Now, when we meet, and just recently in Southeast Volusia as well, we're meeting as groups. We're trying to address large-scale regional concerns on collaboration among all of our organizations.
And something that you alluded to, we talk infrastructure, we think infrastructure, we think roads, bridges, but you even brought in roads and bridges in this. When we do these grants, when we improve water, or we improve roads, they're the same. We're improving both infrastructures at the same time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. More and more consideration. Even DOT and the Water Management District finding these things throughout the state, not just here, but throughout the state. The collaborations and preserving, this water supply, water resources. There's a lot more integrated thinking. Water accounts for everything in our everyday lives, and I look forward to the day when all of us appreciate the value of it more than focus on the cost of it. Once we're doing that, we're going to be in good shape.
And I'll talk more about this under council member closing comments, but what was noted with St. John River Water Management District, I believe there's 18 counties in Dr. Shortell's district, in our particular district. So it should be noted that Dr. Shortell said Saturday at that water quality meeting that Volusia County, I don't think the word she used lion's share, but because, Mr. Manager, our staff is so good at what they do, and I want to thank you for that we have qualified. Volusia County has disproportionately to a very positive end, talk about balancing the scales. I mean, we own the most, or qualify for the most grants through our water management district because of the great work of all the work that goes on in the department. So I want to thank you for that. This is proof of all these years. We can set policy, we can have meetings, but when you walk out the implementation and the check actually gets stroked and it's coming within to accomplish its intended purpose when we get together, this is how we define success. And this is just the beginning of this. Mr. Manager, I don't know if you want to say anything, but
I
you
do.
have tremendous
Recognize him.
staff, tremendous.
Well, I do.
George.
Well, first off, I want to thank the council had the foresight back in 2014. Remember, this is 2020, so we're 6 years in, to be a leader in this area and come together when it really wasn't that popular. but to have that foresight to put together a plan and to stick with it. And what Mike said, which I think is very critical, we're shovel ready. We're designed, ready to go. A commitment was made to do these projects and then, you know, go out and hunt for the grants and the money to do that and work with these kind of partnerships that we have. And you're correct, we could not do it alone. We could not do it without working with the cities in these cases as well. So we've done, I think, a yeoman's job of implementing that plan, and we'll continue to do that. But it was making that first step to be committed to go after this. We went for that advanced wastewater treatment in DeBerry. We were ahead of its time. I mean, we did not have to do that at that time. We could have waited until it was forced upon us. We did not. We chose to go forth and be a leader in the district and in these areas, and I do appreciate everyone that had that kind of foresight. I do want to recognize also, as long as we have the the slide up there with the logos, is we do have in the audience Aaron Watkins, the staff director for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, is here, and of course Abby Johnson with St. John's as well. So very, very nice of them to come by, and we do appreciate working with them. And that's where a lot of action happens, is at that staff level, and I think that's important as well.
Just to add to that briefly, for those that are posting things on social media, don't depend on getting your truth and information from that, of saying we're not doing anything on water quality. I mean, maybe if they would, it really bugs me when people say we're not doing anything on water quality, and they go back and we see what we've done. To be able to involve 2 state agencies working with Volusia County, taking the leadership role on this, that, as you mentioned, started in 2014, and now it's coming. And we were ahead of the curve, not behind it. So we are taking action, not reaction. So, Mike, thank you for all the work. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous. So thank you. We'll move to item number 3. This is a presentation from Clay Irvin.
As Clay comes up, I just want to offer that this is not the end all, the be all. This is the beginning of discussions that we're going to have on CRAs, and I thought it was important that we kind of just establish where we're at today, and that's the purpose, is to inform where we're at. We look forward to further discussions with the cities. They need to be reporting to you, which will happen, and I'm sure there will be discussions that will arise out of that as they go forward with their plans. So, but I thought today, let's go ahead and set a baseline. Where are we today, and what are the status of these CRAs? With that, Clay, go ahead.
Good morning. Clay Irvin, Director of Growth and Resource Management. Before you today, we're going to do a quick presentation. As George says, we're kind of keying up the idea of what's going on with our CRAs. Volusia County has 17 of them throughout a variety of cities. And so I just want to kind of go over what's in your packet so that way anyone listening online can understand the data that is being provided to you. First of all, we are providing to you a summary on page 3-3, which is a quick summary of the 17 CRAs, when they were enacted, any kind of conditions, and the sunset date. Then when you start getting into pages 3-6 through 3-17, that is a summary of, first of all, the county-wide aspects of CRAs, and then each individual city. So what you'll see, say for Daytona Beach, where they have 5 CRAs, that's for all 5 CRAs. On page 3-18 is a very large, very difficult spreadsheet to read, and so therefore that has all 17 of our CRAs and indicating some of the revenues that have occurred with all of those. Basically, what is a CRA? It was created by state law. It's in 163, Article 3. It is primarily an organization saying we have a problem in a specific part of our town. We need to do something about it. It is going to require a public-private action in order to address these conditions of blight. How is it created? Well, here in Volusia County, what occurs is that if a city wants to enact a CRA, they go through either their staff or a consultant will do a blight study. They will identify those conditions of blight. At that point, they find necessity to do something about it. They also, at that same point, initiate a redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan provides basically the framework for that local CRA to follow in order to address those conditions of blight. Blight can be everything from a parking layout issue to inadequate streets, antiquated subdivisions. Lack of affordable housing is the primary issue you see in a lot of these places. So once they've identified what those conditions of blight are, they have to put in place, is there operational improvements that we need to do? Are there hard costs associated with infrastructure that we need to do? So once that's done, they present it here to Volusia County. Volusia County then will either delegate or not delegate that authority to create that CRA. When you get to where we are at from a county's perspective as far as our policies, what you'll see is that in 2010 we adopted 2 resolutions. What occurred was that in the early, mid-80s to the 90s, many CRAs were created, and the county did not put many restrictions in regards to how those funds were supposed to be utilized. In 2010, these 2 resolutions identified how the county is going to work with the cities. That's in 2010-19, talks about when you have to report, how you're supposed to report, how to make sure we've got a coordinated effort if we're dealing with something that's a regional nature, and then basically how you're supposed to coordinate with this county overall. It also required an annual reporting. 2010-20 then got into what is it that the county wants their participation to be. How are we going to coordinate and make sure that the county funds are being utilized towards something that the county council feels is necessary? What you're seeing is that we'll talk about limitations on what it can be used on. Are there specific infrastructure projects? Are there any of these things that we feel as a countywide basis provides for not only a benefit to the CRA, but to the county council? So that way our portion of the tax increment financing, or TIF, can be utilized for something that, again, is consistent with the policies established by our county council. As I said, there's 17 different CRAs throughout 9 cities in Volusia County. The map up there on the screen does provide you a location. As you can see, there's 4 over here on the west side, and the remaining 13 are over on the east side. Some are as old as the 80s, some are as new as 2006. You heard me identify tax increment financing. This is the primary tool that community redevelopment areas utilize to help fund some of the improvements and operations they do. What it basically says is, all right, we're going to create this CRA in, say, 2000. We're going to freeze what payments are coming in. And anything that's increasing the property value, hence increasing the ad valorem taxes that are paid, will be moved over and spent specifically in that area. So again, it's a situation where you set a base year, anything above the base gets allocated to the CRA. So therefore, the concept is, as we're going through and making these operational and infrastructure improvements, we're seeing that the blight conditions are being eliminated, hence the values are going up. So therefore, let's go ahead and grab that increased value and help keep that progression going. In your report, you'll see a table, and this is on, I believe, 3-6, or excuse me, 3-8. It kind of gives you an idea of what our total expenditures were for the year ending September 30th, 2018. And what you're basically seeing is, $6 million from county TIF, $5 million in comparable amount from the cities, as well as other revenues that they have gotten and what they've been expended on. And that's contained in your sheets. And what you'll see is that some of the cities have spent it on operational aspects in regards to community policing in the past. What you're seeing primarily is a lot of infrastructure. Some of the cities have facade grants. Again, these are multi-tools that they can utilize to hopefully improve the overall area, increase the tax base, and get the area more active. We talked about the limitations from 2010-20. What you're seeing is that In the past, our county council has given us direction to focus on these things, trying to focus on capital improvements so that that way it is a long-lasting, basically investment into the area so that that way these conditions of blight don't come back. There are quite a few issues facing CRAs at this point. I have to say the first one, House Bill 9, which was passed and made into law and is incorporated in 163 now, says that statewide all CRAs will end in 2039, maybe. And I don't mean to be flippant, but basically they said it's going to end in 2039, but you can, with a majority, simple majority of the delegating authority, being able to continue it beyond that. They did put some other conditions in there in regards to extension of debt and other types of things. Again, it was an attempt to end them but still give them some continuation. So it's still one of those things that we're not really sure where the legislature was coming from there. The good thing is that it did give the flexibility still to the local government. There was mandatory ethics training. We have a good relationship with all of our CRAs. They were able to explain to us exactly what they were doing to ensure compliance with that law. There was the annual audit and transparency requirements. We were already, again, ahead of our schedule. In 2010, we were requiring it as part of our review. So therefore, many of these agencies have already started on this, and I don't think it's going to be a major issue. And then they defined and limited inactive CRAs. So therefore, if you have a CRA that's not really collecting, doing, or acting, you're going to be ending. And I can tell you that that's not necessarily the case with our 17 that we have in place. All of them are active. All of them are continuing to go forward. We have quite a few cities that are facing a couple of different issues. You know, our newer CRAs, such as Edgewater, Orange City, New Smyrna Beach, they had a 5-year review period. Those are actually have come and passed, and we're going to be bringing them back to you. But many of them are looking to do some things such as extend the dates. Many of them have suffered through the recession and depression that occurred, and so now are just now starting to come back, and they're going to be looking for an extension of time in order so that they can come back and get back on the right track. Also, there's some limitations. For example, we have representatives from the city of New Smyrna Beach here, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. They're seeing how we have put a limitation on how the county's TIF is being utilized, and they feel that's having a difficulty in them being allocated their portion of the TIF to some of the other projects. So they may be coming back to you and asking you for an amendment to that particular requirement. Because we did that same CRA standard to New Smyrna Beach as we did to Edgewater, so I would expect Edgewater to come in and make a similar type of request. So what you're going to see, some of the cities are going to be coming on that. The other thing that we've heard, there used to be a 3-year limitation in the Florida statutes in regards to how long you had to hold your money. City of Deltona, their CRA was primarily created for roadway improvements. And as we all know, roadway improvements are not cheap. So just trying to keep up with 3 years worth of investment that you would get from your TIF is not necessarily covering all of their costs. So you may see that they're going to be asking if they can continue on to basically bank that money so that they can get the match that's needed to go after state and federal funds for some of these road improvements. So what you're going to see is that we fully expect over the next several months many of the CRAs coming in for these types of issues to address some of the concerns that have changed since we've now come out of the economic recession and they're starting to see a rebound. That is my presentation. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions? I'll give you one.
Yes, sir.
Because I looked at this seriously when Ormond Beach was looking at it. We were going through some changes in Ormond. And I looked at it and I said, well, what if we didn't have the CRA? Would we use those funds? Would the county then have those funds? Because if you see this, the amount of funding that the county, I don't say loses, because we do get the increased value at some point when those projects are complete. I don't look at it as a total loss. And then I reevaluated and I said, what we found out was a lot of the areas where the CRA's funds were used, the surrounding areas also increased in value to a huge degree, which also gave us instant or annual increase in revenue from those surrounding areas. So they are a good tool when used properly, when you use them to do what it's supposed to be, and that is to increase the value at the point in time so that when it does run out, you've increased the value and you use it properly. So I think it's a good tool for the cities and for us to have in the toolbox. And I know we will have questions. I think we've been all getting emails and phone calls from several of them. So thank you, Clay. Anyone else have a question? If not, oh, Ms. Wheeler.
I just want to ask you, there are some that have used it for salaries or pay. Under what circumstances can they do that?
Well, there's a certain amount, as you can see, I believe it's on the first summary sheet where we talk about the county as a whole, and I think that's on 3-7. What you'll see is that, you know, countywide, there's 12.5 full-time employees who are associated for the CRAs. You can use a portion of that to cover that. Also, some of the cities in the past have utilized it for community policing and other similar type of code enforcement activities. So in those situations where the condition of blight indicates that it's appropriate, you can utilize it for those. What we're seeing is majority of the cities are correlating to what we're saying, is that we want to see, you know, the brick and mortar aspect and have a longer term investment in those regards. So yes, there is a certain amount that can be allocated for administrative and staffing, but for the most part, what we're seeing is a majority of our cities and their CRAs are utilizing that money for infrastructure and capital improvements, facade grants, those types of things.
How is that percentage allocated? I mean, how do they?
It depends on their plan. You know, the great thing about CRAs and the bad thing about CRAs is the CRA that you need for Midtown Daytona Beach is not going to be necessarily the same one you need over here in downtown DeLand. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, indicating what they see as the conditions of blight.
Okay, thank you, Clay. And we'll move now to item 4, and this is the interfund loans for fiscal year ended September 30th. Ryan or Joanne? Oh, there's Ryan.
Good morning, Council. Ryan Osowski, Chief Financial Officer. Before you, you have item 4, the interfund loans for September 30th. This is related to grants that we receive. For grants that we receive, we pay the expenditures in advance of the revenues coming in. Therefore, there is a deficit position at the end of the year, and the general fund has to cover that deficit position. So we are asking for authorization to do the interfund loans to cover that deficit position.
Okay, is there a motion? Ms. Wheeler.
Sorry. Motion to approve the interfund loans for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2019.
Second.
Motion made by Wheeler, seconded by Gertman. Any discussion or questions? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, and we will move to item number 4A, sorry.
Good morning, Chairman Kelly, Brian Rothwell, Activity Project Manager. I have a sponsorship request from Futures Incorporated for regarding its upcoming 2020 Caribbean Party, which will be held on March 28th in the amount of $1,500.
Okay, Ms. Wheeler.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I move approval of the sponsorship requested from Futures Incorporated regarding its upcoming 2020 Caribbean Party for $1,500.
Second.
Motion made by Wheeler, seconded by Post. Any questions? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimous, and I will call, there he is, Captain.
Good morning. Kevin Captain, Interim Community Information Director. Talk with you a little bit about events. The first one coming up is this Thursday, February the 20th in Osteen at Station 36. This is going to be a wash down and push-in ceremony it's going to celebrate a new water engine, a tender engine that actually has a capability of 2,175 gallons. So brand new truck, also a newly housed ambulance. And also the event will host an open house. Again, that's going to be at the Station 36, 180 North State Road in Osteen. I also want to bring to your attention, this Saturday is a census-related event. It's not on your list, but it is a census event that we're participating in with Council Member Barb Gertman. It will be county council staff plus their dogs with a You Rock theme and wearing their census attire. Wait till you see it. You'll get a good kick out of it. But it's really meant to help encourage people to fill out their census forms. And then lastly, just a quick reminder that we do continue to have the Big Read. It's all the way through the 29th. A couple more events coming up with that, and that will come to a close for this year. That concludes the events. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
We'll now move to nominations and appointments. Mr. Johnson, you have two, I believe. We'll go with the first one, which is an appointment to the Children and Families Advisory Board.
Yes, I nominate Peter Minor.
Peter Minor has been nominated for serving on the remainder of a 2-year term on the Children and Family Advisory Board. Any objection to that nomination? Hearing none, Peter Minor is confirmed. We'll move to item number 7, Mr. Johnson.
I nominate Tariq Gibran Hamid.
Tariq Gibran Hamid has been nominated to serve on the Cultural Council. Any objection to that nomination? Hearing none, it shall be so. And now we move to public participation, and I don't have a card, but I'm assuming I will get one because he's sitting here. That's John Nicholson, I'm guessing. Come on down, John.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granby, Daytona Beach side. Finishing up from the last, number 5. But before I get to 5, on the audit, the CRAs, you have oversight over the CRAs. I'm asking you to do that. When Glenn Ritchie was in, he did an audit for me. There were 27 irregularities, but they only covered 3 years. They didn't go back to the big irregularities. So I'm asking you to have oversight. I would love to have Ms. Wheeler back on the board for years. Frank Bruno was on our Main Street board, as was several other commissioners. I would love to have her back because you need to have oversight. With regard to salaries, which you brought up, I think it's unfair that the Main Street board pays $1,000 an hour for a city employee to sit on the board, to sit there. And then they pay another CRA $50 an hour. So why should we pay a lawyer $1,000 and then the other ones get paid $50? It doesn't make sense. So for all of our staffing, we pay 7 to 10 times what the others. So we pay $500,000 on salaries, and the other CRA pays less than $100,000. I don't find that kosher, and I think you should look into it. It's not fair. We get $5.5 million. We pay 2.5. We get like $3 million to spend, and we don't have any money. So how do you have $3 million and not have any money to do things that people in the area would prefer? Getting back to the previous item at the beginning of the meeting, as you come down ISB, you hit Tobacco Farms Road. One of the staffers asked me, would you take a look, see what can be done? So I spent several days looking at what was there. You have, heading north from Tobacco Farm Road, you hit 3 lanes at ISB. 1 lane goes north and west, 2 lanes go east. So for every 100 cars that hit that intersection, you have 90 in 1 lane, and you have 10 in 2 lanes. It does not make sense. I was told because the alignment is off by 6 inches, you couldn't have 1 lane go left, 1 lane go straight, and 1 lane go right. 6 inches doesn't mean a whole heck to me. When I go over the ISB bridge to the beach side, it's all out of alignment by 20 feet. So if they can do 20 feet at Peninsula, they can do 6 inches at that location. If you've ever been there, the traffic backs up all the way down past the flea market. So there's room on that because they've got like about 4 blocks to get into the flea market, and they don't use it all. That could be used or repurposed to get that traffic flowing west to DeLand and north to Tomoka Farms Road. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And we'll go to George.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I have just one item, and I had briefed everybody, but using our Volusia County Code of Ordinances, I had to respond to a situation. If you'll recall, our county library system was a target of a ransom attack back in January. As required by state statute, we have to have a third party verify the results of that attack to make sure there was no personal information or anything put out there. Our own folks are pretty confident that that is the case. However, there's a time element on that, and I had to exercise my authority to issue an emergency purchase order in the amount of $58,375, and I'm required to inform the council publicly at the next meeting, and that is what I'm doing right now. So, but that is out to CFC Response, who will do a forensic look at what happened and report back to us in the time frame required.
And that doesn't require any action from us because it's just you're
It's just
required.
right, exactly.
Understand that.
It's already done. I'm required to notify you in council.
Note that we're duly notified. County Attorney Mike Dyer.
Good morning. Have some good news to share that your staff has been able to arrive at a proposed memorandum of agreement with the property appraiser on the Amendment 10 transition. So we'll be bringing that to you with a presentation with the property appraiser at your March 3rd meeting. We're now working with the sheriff on a memorandum of agreement for that function. And also with regards to Sunrail, at the March 3rd meeting, the manager and I will bring forward an agenda item to you to update you on where we are with Sunrail. We did have a Sunrail Commission meeting on January 30th. And you may recall that the intent of that meeting was to agree on a letter that we'd send to the Florida Department of Transportation to have a discussion about how to amend the agreements to reflect the status of the DeLand station and the flex dollars, the $34 million in flex dollars. Sunrail Commission decided to not send the letter at that time. So we're going to get some information together with you to give you an update on where we stand and what possible options are going forward.
Okay. Since you mentioned Amendment 10, I'm assuming that we still haven't heard from District 1 of the court.
That's correct.
Have not.
We have not.
Okay. All right. And we'll start the council comments from Ms. Gertman.
Thank you, Chair. Don't have much. I will say I attended the most recent diversity and inclusion training for leadership staff, and how impressed I was not only with the presenter, but I think with the inclusion of the staff and the communication and openness. I'm also really pleased to see the efforts of management to take the evolution of the county regarding hiring and the needs seriously, and making these investments in the leadership staff, and to encourage how we need to move forward, and just recognizing the future of the employment and hiring and the changes that we're going to need to make in order to have the right people in the right place. So I thank you for that, George, and the leadership of the county. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Johnson.
Yes. One thing is last night, Ms. Gertman and I attended the Spring Hill CRA meeting, and one of the concerns still is the stop sign at New Hampshire and Clara, and I'd like to get an update on that when we can. I mean, it doesn't have to be here, but for John Cheney to let us know how that's coming. There is a big concern with the new apartment complex going in. And the children, also just for information to start putting on your calendars, it was, I think, the first weekend in April, they're talking about opening a new center on Spring Hill, the Resource
Save
Center?
the date, May 9th at 10 a.m.
Okay, May 9th. So just put that on the calendar. Also, this Saturday, a little mention, but the dog parade in downtown DeLand. If you have never been to that, it is quite a sight, quite an interesting day. And I mean, really, the women have put so much into this whole thing that if you're looking for an entertaining day, take your dog and go to town. I wouldn't advise taking a cat. But it is an entertaining day and probably one of the biggest parade days Volusia ever sees. That's all I got.
Mr. Lowry.
Yeah, I attended the opening of the Grand Seas last night. It was a really nice event. To see a negative area turn to positive is always good. And other than that, that's all I have. Thanks.
Ms. Post.
A couple of things. We've had these last 2 weeks were filled with events, but I just wanted to highlight 3 of them. We just had the Hope Place Library Playground opening. And if you haven't been by that playground off of Derbyshire, you need to stop by because it's pretty amazing. They have all kinds of stuff there. They have a little rope climbing area. They have all kinds of stuff. One of the wonderful things too I was looking at was the view that all of those homes along Derbyshire now have. You know, if you drive down Derbyshire and you look at where the old Hearst Elementary School was, which is now Hope Place, you will see the black wrought iron fence, you will see the palm trees, you will see nice landscaping, all of that. And if you look across the street, you can tell there is definitely an increased sense of community in there, and it's just very nice. So if you haven't had a chance, please stop by there. Also, Tim Tebow does his Night to Shine events all over the place. And if you're not familiar with that, those are proms for special needs students or special need people, some out of school already. This year was especially special to me, though. There were 2 events in county that I was aware of, but my niece, Faith, was able to attend this year, and she's never been to prom. She's in 11th grade over at Seabreeze in their special needs program. She's autistic. So what a wonderful, wonderful program. If you have not been involved in that before, every year they ask for citizens to come out and to line the red carpet as paparazzi to show support. So if you haven't done that, you can reach out and find out how you can get involved next year. But what a wonderful opportunity to see all of the special needs people in our community. Tomorrow is the Employee Recognition Luncheon, and so there will be a lot of thanks given tomorrow to our Volusia County employees, but I want to certainly say thank you to all of our Volusia County employees for all the hard work that you do. And we have a lot of humble employees that may not want to come and be recognized, but so I would ask you, please come. Please be recognized. This is the opportunity for us at least to show that extra recognition, and you certainly deserve it. We mentioned county IT, the issue with the library program. I wanted to say I'm very happy with staff assessing and looking at various departments and addressing inefficiencies. And one of the areas that I know that George and Suzanne, that you have specifically been looking at is IT and sort of revamping that area. Obviously very, very important to bring us forward into 2020. Technology is moving forward at a very quick pace. And, if our IT goes down, if you talk to anyone in Homeland Security, if your IT system goes down, everything stops. So that is absolutely an area we need to focus on and put whatever funding we need to into that to make sure that
Thank you. And that is a big concern of ours, is that's an infrastructure nobody sees, but everybody depends on. Mm-hmm. And so it definitely is an area. I'm very proud of our staff. I feel like they're on the front line doing a lot of battling out there, and we're going to try and get ahead of this. We've got a lot of resources. We have really good minds that are in place that are going to push us forward. And I do appreciate you will see our upcoming investment as we talk budget. So
This is an excellent representation of showing that our priorities, that's great, that our priorities are focused on those things that actually keep the operations running, and that we are focusing on facility operations and personnel at this time. So that's, I just definitely wanted to point that out. The last thing I have is everyone's aware that this afternoon is our Volusia Forever and Echo workshop. I have been very impressed with how much public involvement there has been. I would stress, this is very, very important. If you look at all of the different projects that Echo has covered over the last 20 years, and you look at the lands that Volusia Forever has been a part of, we wouldn't have those things without these two programs. And obviously, the people voted to put those programs into place in the first place. So public involvement is very important, and the fact that we are seeing people involved, we're seeing people wanting to be informed is really, really terrific, because there's a tremendous importance in having your voice heard as a citizen. These decisions that are made up here and everywhere else greatly affect your day-to-day lives, and a lot of people don't put a lot of stock in the fact that the local decisions have such an impact on your local lives. So thank you to everyone who's been involved with that, and I hope that you'll continue to be involved. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've also been extremely busy with the census presentations. I did one at the Lions Club in the Ormond by the Sea, as well as with the Ormond citizens at the Ormond Library, as well as the Tomoka Village. Good reception on all of those. I also did a proclamation in Freemanville on the historical Freemanville, and I wanted to mention that tomorrow I will be missing, so all of staff, all of you employees, I'm really sorry that I can't be there to show my appreciation for each and everything that you do, but I am going to the State of the City address in Port Orange. I was asked by their mayor, and since that is in my district, I wanted to attend that. On Saturday, I've been invited to the Longstreet Elementary. They have a camp, and the kids this year chose environment, and they've come up with some ideas that they want to present to me. They kind of know that where I stand with the environment. So I'm going to be having a meeting with them on Saturday. And at the East Central Florida Regional Planning Committee, which I'm on the board, and I'm also on the Resiliency Board, they've organized a meeting, and then I did get our economic development person involved, but I'll be going to Embry-Riddle with the Global Business Advisories for a little meeting. That's next week. And also, I just wanted to announce to everybody, on Thursday of this week at the museum, MOS, we will be having the Mary McLeod Bethune Statuary Committee is sponsoring an event, and we've brought in the sculptor, Nilda Comas. It's going to be an extraordinary event. She's going to discuss how her studio, she has a studio in Fort Lauderdale as well as one in Italy, where she has pulled the largest piece of perfect marble out of the quarry, the last remaining large piece out of the quarry, to do the statue of Mary McLeod Bethune that will be going in Statuary Hall in Washington. This was the same quarry that Michelangelo's work was pulled from. This is quite historical. To hear her story of how she's developing this replica of Dr. McLeod is just amazing. The board, on our last board meeting, we chose from her will the sayings that are going to be on the seams of the books that will be at her feet. It was a historical moment for all of us. We were almost in tears as we know that the things that we chose, working with the college and everything else, staff, that those things are going to be historical. It's been a moving event for me. Anyway, they're going to be having her, giving her presentation of how she is coming from the heart and developing this statue. I'm just honored to be a part of this board, and it's going to be really something. And we are also raising money that the bronze replica of the statue, which will be the same 9 feet tall, we're looking at putting it in the Riverside Park off of Beach Street, looking up Mary McLeod Boulevard to the college. The whole thing, I just get chills and I want to cry. So it's a big darn event, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. That's it.
Ms. Denny's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's really an impressive thing for our community. Councilwoman Wheeler, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, the favorite quote that I remember from her was, "Be a Daniel, take the vow of courage." That's one of my favorites from her. Yeah. Amazing leadership. So I don't know if you saw, but last night I was flipping through the channel. Channel 13 News was interviewing Dr. Butler from Embry-Riddle University, thanking Volusia County for the good work we have done in the aerospace and aviation industry, and they put a picture of the overlay district up there. He's referring to it, and they interviewed, I think, 2 students at Embry-Riddle. If we could capture that interview and get that up on Volusia County's site, that's like an exclamation point to the good work that we have been doing all these years. We talk about high-paying jobs. We hear about affordable housing. We hear about what's the answer. Well, when we have Embry-Riddle University thanking Volusia County on the news for the great work that we're doing, I was just like, yes. I've tried. I've drilled down in Channel 13. I can't find it, or capture it at this stage. But I think that's worth celebrating, and we'll make sure we thank Dr. Butler.
We'll do that.
For those kind words. So I want to thank this past Saturday. You've got that one picture. I'm just going to pull one picture out. This is taken outside. Our water quality meeting that we had, that's General Ernie Audino and, of course, Congressman Waltz and Dr. Julia Newschweit, Florida's resilience officer, and Miriam Giabi. This was just one picture of the over 120 people that showed up in Edgewater on a Saturday morning to talk about water quality and collaboration. And on the panel, we had, of course, Dr. Newschweit. She did our keynote. Senator Wright was there, and of course, Congressman Waltz, being in the House, took the microphone. We had Senator, we had the DEP, we had Dr. Ann Shortell from the St. John River Water Management District, and the cities of New Smyrna, Edgewater, and Oak Hill, as well as our staff, Ben Bartlett and Mr. Ulrich. I don't know if they're still here, but thank you. Tremendous conversation, and countywide was represented. We had Joyce Shanahan, City Manager of Ormond, was there with Commissioner Selby. We had Mayor of Lake Helen. She was there. We had electeds and community leaders countywide. And they asked us if we could replicate that meeting to their districts, specific to their district. And Kelly McGee touched on it a little bit this morning. So we're utilizing Bethune-Cookman and Stetson University and some of the other areas. It was great work, great conversation being done. But some of the best conversation and dialogue that happened was at lunch. When this was over, we all went to lunch, most of us. Some had to get on a boat and go, not on a boat, no. They had a parade, Living Legends parade. We had to get them from here to the driver to get them to your parade. The rest of us continued working. They came back. We picked them up at the Brandon Center, went up the lagoon on the boat ride. It was a full day, action-packed day, wonderful day. But Dr. Shortell stayed with us at lunch and came up with many ideas during the workshop. She's writing continually. And she said, you know, there's this grant, and I think if we connect this one and that one, and what about this? By the end of lunch, we were already collaborating on next steps and how to work with our cities and our partners for good water quality. So it was a very good day for all of Volusia and all of our regional partners. So thank you for that, staff. It was over the, and Jeff Crumbly, of course. Thank you for that. I want to just, you can take that off now, unless you really want to see our great people and hashtag One Lagoon, but there you go. Mr. Manager, you said something, we've talked about this, and council, I'd like to, for consideration. His threshold for approval is 50,000. Anything over 50,000, he needs to come back to get council direction and approval. What year was that threshold set? Do we know what year that was set? It's been at least 10 years.
We can find out. It's been some time.
It's-
It's not in recent history, has it been changed?
Right, it's over 10 years. So if we're talking about moving forward, and we know costs are going up, I would like us to seriously consider increasing the threshold that the manager has that he can approve without coming back to council. Because things like this, he shouldn't be nervous because he has to do an IT fix and it costs $58,000 or $78,000. This is the real world. These are real numbers. And if we have a problem with that, then we've got a problem with our manager, and that's for another day. But I'm comfortable. It's true.
I think let's bring that back. I'm willing to look at it. I think we all researched when it was. I think it's probably been 20 years
Easy.
that's been set. And there is a situation in there where for an emergency situation, he can,
Right.
but we need to readdress that and bring that back.
Yeah, we can look at that for efficiency. I will say that, however, I don't have any problem, and we do bring a lot of items to under the current threshold too. So I don't want anyone to think that we're trying to do not be transparent, but really there are some times with efficiency that we need to hop on something, and that's, I think, what this would be.
You would still bring that to the council.
Anything over whatever new amount
Right.
that you guys decide. But we'll come up and may do a little research, see what's around us, and try to modernize that. But like I say, the council's been great to work with on these situations, and I do appreciate that.
So that's enough, and I'm glad you went there to see what we're doing in our surrounding counties, what they do within their management. But I want to expand it to legal. I want to see, Mr. Dyer, you have a threshold too that you can settle?
We have currently any settlement of a claim or litigation in excess of $5,000 must come to council. And that is a figure as well that's been static for many years.
So that being said, council, can we add that for discussion? If we're going to discuss this, take a look at it, and then again.
I'm getting nods, yes, up and down.
Let's see what the other
bring that back.
counties do, see what their threshold is, what's reasonable. Because if we're going to review it, let's take a hard look at our business practices going forward. Okay, thank you. What else do I have? Oh, here's another thing I'd like to consider. Thank you. I don't think Ryan, is Mr. Oskowski, he's still not, is he here?
He's right over there.
There you are. Well, you don't need to, but I want to thank you for the very detailed information that you gave council, you forwarded on the pooled cash explanation. That is, it's difficult. When you've got a budget as big as ours, it can be confusing. It is. But to understand a sweep account and what happens, which is what we do.
Right.
Which is what we do, and how the interest is not just what we do, some individuals do it, corporations do it, businesses using wise business practices do that. It's not an exception to the rule, it is the rule. But that being said, the most important thing is three things we do as council is the budget and hiring our manager and our county attorney. We're going to be working on the budget, and I know, Mr. Manager, you're having these discussions already within departments. And we're already end of February. What I would like to do, I would like a presentation, consider an agenda item to council on pooled cash only. I think this is that important to the process going forward, because I don't want it to get muddied up, and I don't want it to say, we have $500 million out there that we can do whatever we want with, and we can build roads and we can build bridges. They just don't know what they're doing. They have to get creative and keep it local and stop relying on grants. So, that's a fact. So
Give the grants back.
Yeah, give the grants back. There you go. $40 million on the federal bridge at Orange Avenue. There you go. So I think this is that important to us going forward. I'd like a presentation to council on the pooled cash account, so we as a council can ask questions to you and the public. They can hear it, they can ask questions. I think this is really critical, and you've explained it well, but I want to take it one step further. We get reports every quarter on our investments, the status of the investments, the value of the investments, the interest accumulated on it. I would like to see a report on the interest only from the last budget year. Well, I mean, the last budget year was 18, 19, whatever that is.
From last complete budget year.
I want to see the annual interest and then the current interest to date separate. I want current interest to date, not the capital, not the balances, just what we're earning.
Let me interrupt you for a second. You say current to date, do you mean, what date do you mean?
From last budget year to now.
So from October 1st?
Fiscal year, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
For the fiscal year.
Mhm.
I want,
Okay.
because that's, and I'm going to go somewhere with that. But council needs to see that, and we need to take a hard look at that for budget purposes and make sure, just for transparency, and to make sure that we're on the same platform with this. So council, would you like to discuss publicly the pooled cash?
Okay.
Okay, because that's a big one. That's a really, really big one, because I believe there's only 28 million unencumbered in that.
Yeah, we got that number from Donna DePeister last year.
Right.
Right.
And I think that may not include our emergency fund, or may include it. There was such a small amount when they did the pie chart, which was very easy to understand, that you cannot do anything with that. It's just that 28 million, maybe 40 million, counting the emergency.
I think we'll go over that in that presentation.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea. And I will just say, one of the interesting charts I saw out of Ryan's great explanation is where we stand again with like-sized counties and similar counties in terms of available cash. We are on the low side.
And debt. I want not just cash, debt. I want to know how many counties our size are debt-free in the general fund. That's a big one.
We'll look at their debt.
Billy, did you have something you wanted to add to her discussion?
Well,
On one of those previous?
I'm going to wait until she's done. A couple things I forgot.
Okay.
Not interrupting her.
Yep. Ms. Gertman, was yours on something that she was talking about?
Just on what she was just talking about. And I think one of the questions also is our zero to debt. So with that, if you go zero to debt, that means that there's additional costs that we're incurring because we're kicking something down the road to save money, right, to purchase certain items. So my question would be, how do we compare if we were to purchase something today at today's value versus saving for 5 years and now it costs us 50% more? So
I think that's a wise question, and we can talk about that and how we analyze that, and I do think that is something that we as a group need to discuss with the the citizens who may not understand, but that's a very wise point, and especially in a expanding construction market,
Right.
you must be aware of that. Again, I think as a county, we've done a great job. Look at like this morning, the investments in our utility, and we've done things there, and that utility does carry some debt. That's a separate area, but like anybody, they've managed it to be good debt, and debt that's done exactly what you're talking about, investments in things that many years ago that have a long life. So therefore, we can spread that out, and other generations can can pay and as they use that big piece of infrastructure as well. So there's a lot there to consider, and exactly what you're talking about. It's about using it wisely. But the beauty of it is we are a county that has debt capacity because of that. Now it's a matter of how do we use it, and I think that's the good thing. I mean, just to say, the no debt part is half the story. It's the other part about now what do we want to do as a community.
I'm not saying it wasn't the best thing to do at that time, but now we are here.
Positions
looking
ourselves for
forward.
what we
Yes.
may need to do in the future.
So if we can take a
We
look
have,
at that as
and
well.
I will say, don't forget, too, is that I think we're doing a great job, but consider the challenges that are, Mike made a mention a minute ago, hey, we have an MOU with the property appraiser. Those are no small things that we're working through and trying to do these in a manner not spending a lot of taxpayers' money, but there are expenses. You just can't get around some of the things that are going to face us in the future. But we're doing a remarkable job, but I will have to come to you with some price tags and some decisions as we go forward. And of course, Sunrail was another one mentioned, that there is a price tag. I will say, from just talking to some other county managers in there, I think we've done a very good job, even with that, in terms of keeping everybody informed and trying to plan as best we can with an unknown. Some of the other counties, I think, are taking a wait and see approach on what the department's going to do and that type of thing. Well, we have not done that. We have worked actively, and we'll go over that when we do our 5-year forecasts and further financial discussions that are coming up.
Okay. Well, let's not get into the weeds on discussion whether we should go or whether we should spend or whether we should look. Let's get the information. So if you have something that adds to that, let's leave it till it comes back to us.
Mr. Chair, just final comment on this, then I'll be done. On the going to zero, I don't want to, what we did years ago, we had debt and a higher interest rate. So council, Dr. Lauer, you remember this, we refinanced it as often as we could to drop the interest rate, to drop the payment, and then what we did was we planned to pay that debt off, which we did, to position for projects coming up. So I absolutely agree with you, and I think at the time there were a couple projects, I won't name them, one that's not going to happen, but there's always the rest of the story and why we did it. So I agree with you, Councilwoman Gertman, it's time to, because we know construction costs are going up 10-15% a year on some, we know that in our road projects. So I think it's something that we're willing to look at. But that's why it happened and we got to where we did. Thank you.
Ms. Post.
So in our last meeting at open discussion, I actually brought this up to have council bring this back and discuss it. So I'm very glad that you've brought it up again. So can we actually ensure then that it's on an upcoming agenda for us specifically to talk about Go to Zero?
You brought up one specific thing, and that was on.
I specifically asked for council to discuss the policy of Go to Zero debt, period. So that's what we're doing now, so that's fantastic.
We'll bring that up, we can discuss it. I think each one of us has different opinions, but the numbers are going to be the one that you should look at and make the decision. Okay, before I make my comments, Ms. Wheeler.
I'm so sorry, I did forget to say that I attended my first as a board member of the Indian River Lagoon Council. That's interesting, lots of information. They were voting on items that they're going to approve or move forward on. So that's a really good thing. That was in Sebastian. But how can I forget this? But it seems like there's so many things that we're doing in between council meetings. But one of the big things was the parade, the Legends Parade. And Ms. Denny's mentioned it. What an ordeal that was. It was so fantastic. And our Grand Marshal was Congressman Waltz, and he had Dr. Neshwat in his car. I got to ride in a car this year. Normally I'm waving the flag. I had the choice. So I rode in the car behind his with Senator Wright, and behind me in the car was Jim France driving his dad's car. And behind him was Michael Waldrop, and behind him was Chip Wiles. It was so much fun. And riding in that, taking it from the Racing's North Turn down to the south entrance, going onto the beach, and then coming up, it was jam-packed with people all the way down and all the way up the beach in balconies. And the only problem that we had was we couldn't get buses through after. A lot of people were complaining because they waited for 2 hours to get in there. And at 11:45, we had to stop because we had to line up. And the parking was filled. So we're going to have to figure out where else we can do that. And I would like to expand our Marine Science Center display and maybe show something on our reef system even. It's a great opportunity for us to highlight some of the things down there. But what a success. Thank you, council, for supporting me on this. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, staff. I'm excited, and it was just wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, I'll mark off the employee lunch tomorrow. I'll mark off my comments on IT. We'll go ahead and comment briefly on the ECHO and the Volusia Forever. We have 6 months till anything has to be on a ballot, the language. We intentionally wanted to have involvement with the public, which today is the first workshop. I don't expect that we're going to have the workshop today, and people shouldn't expect that we're going to go have language if we're going to put it on done. We want more public input. That's what we said. So people be patient. We're getting your input, and we're going to take the time to get it and to get it right. So wanted to make that comment. Another thing, people are commenting about minimum wage and so forth. Minimum wage is meant to be an entry-level position. If you look at the management within even a fast food place, that's not an entry-level wage. So it doesn't mean you're going to be stuck there. It's an entry-level position. So I want to thank everyone for making, all the council, everyone did a great job on the state of the county. I thought that was fantastic. Nothing but great job. People were really excited. They enjoyed the video and the fact that all of us participated. It was super. Speaking of that, I will be attending Thursday Seminole County's State of the County, and that should be fun. And how many times have we had a sitting president come to the Daytona 500? One other time. I tried to get Fred Lowry to go take my place this past on the 16th, and he said, "Ed, why don't you do it since it'll be your last one?" I didn't know the president was going to be here, but what a thrill that was. And Bill, your name's still up. If you got to say something, do it before I finish. That's the third time you've interrupted me in closing comments. I'm tired of it. I'm going to start going first.
I wanted to make a comment on something you said.
Okay.
When you're done with it.
Go ahead.
And that was, you were talking about public comments on ECHO. And I would like us to consider taking up the Trust for Public Land and Nature Conservancy, their offer to do a feasibility research and conducting a public opinion.
In the workshop.
I just wanted to bring
in the
that up
workshop.
while you're in there.
In the workshop. Okay. Anyway, we have a sitting president coming. Doesn't matter. We had a sitting president come, and we're given, as Fred knows, and I think Billy, you've done one. They give you a little speech on what you can say. And they want you to stick with it. Well, I deviated from it.
You're not going back. You're done.
And I said something to two of the people, and they said, "Well, what are they going to do to you? Not invite you back?" So, as the county council chair, I proclaimed February 16th, 2020, as President Donald J. Trump Day in the county of Volusia, and urged all in Volusia to recognize that day. I did it individually. I mentioned it to Congressman Waltz. He said, "That's fantastic." He wants to get it to the president. And if council would be willing to do one retroactively and would be willing to sign on it, I would like that we create one to have it sent to the president.
So moved.
Second.
And if you don't want your name on it, for whatever reason, you don't have to have it on there, but if you do, I'd like it to come from the council. How many times do we have that opportunity to have something like that? So, motion is made and seconded that we will come retroactively as the proclamation, but as of that date. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, we will do a proclamation that will be created and sent to Michael Walsh would even probably take it to the president's office. I did make a little faux pas. Julia was sitting beside me, and I said, man, what a job it was getting through security. And she had her sunglasses on, so I didn't recognize her. And she said, well, we didn't have any problem coming off of Air Force One. And I go, well, I guess not. But they did a real nice job of letting the county and the city of Daytona Beach, they gave us the two best seats for the viewing of the speech, front and center. I mean, even the governor was sitting 6 seats down from me. The Medal of Honor, recent Medal of Honor winner was sitting 2 seats down from me. The France family was sitting behind on the second row, behind the governor, and Michael Walsh was sitting right there. So it was cool. And Julia also mentioned what a great job Billy is doing on the resilience. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm going to share that with you. I could have done that in a private setting, but I thought it was kind of cool that she would remember what a great job that you taken the lead with the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. And that pages. And then one thing on the pooled accounts, I thought it was pretty bad that someone pointed out on the radio that the stock of Brown & Brown was one of the investments. Go to your list that we got from Ryan, and the stock that was bought has gone up about 100 times, and it's in the fire department's retirement fund. It has gone from $3 million to $60 million or something like that, an investment in the stock. There's 44,000 shares of stock that was bought back then, and what a great, and it was in a retirement account. Don't we wish every retirement account had that return? But anyway, so that was that one. And the 2 quick things. Hearing or reading what I read in the paper, it alarmed me that within the sheriff's department, that there was a procedure that allowed the overtime or the time cards to be changed after approval by an individual asking for the overtime. And I think that if there's any place that we can use an internal auditor, it would be to look at that to see if there are any other instances of overtime being adjusted after the fact. Because we know we have overtime, we know we're going to have it, but to be able to change what you're being paid after it's approved really bothered me. And they said they corrected it, but after the fact. I'm not going to get into the disciplinary reasons. That's their call. It's not ours. But ours is responsibility for the oversight to make sure that funds are not being adjusted. A payroll is being adjusted after the fact. And while we're doing that, I would think the internal auditor at some point would want to look to make sure, we discussed it 2 years ago, to make sure that the MSD funds are not being supplemented by the general fund, because I don't want my taxes as a general fund payer paying some of the operations in Deltona or DeBerry or Orange City. We needed to thoroughly make sure that that's correct. I hope everyone is okay with that. And with that, we will recess until 1:30, where we will have the, Ben, please do. If, in the future, if anybody wants to say something after I speak, do it before I speak. I'm supposed to be the last one to speak.
Well, with your great intelligence, sometimes you bring up thoughts that make us think. So we're just complimenting you on bringing up things that we may have forgotten and that we think the general public needs to know about.
And that was smooth.
He's going to let you
I'll
speak.
tell
He's
you what,
totally going to let you speak.
you can
now.
see why he
No,
was a 16-year sheriff, elected
And
unopposed.
that's what I wanted to bring up, and y'all were talking about the presidential visit, and I think we need to commend Sheriff's Office, Daytona Police Department, all the police departments. I've been there when a president has shown up at short notice, and you don't realize what a major undertaking that is, and the Secret Service doesn't care what kind of resources you have. They're gonna tell you what you're gonna do. And it is a major problem, so we need to commend all those law enforcement agencies for the job they did. And believe me, that the best thing you see is that big bird taking off, because you worry the whole time of what could go wrong. But we do need to commend them. Thank you.
Well, I can tell you this, I wasn't gonna get into details, but we had to go through extra security with Tim Huth and the mayor and I in the car. They tore his car apart.
Well,
They
you are
opened the trunk.
suspicious looking.
Well, they didn't wand me, though, I will say that. I was the only one that wasn't wanded, and I had taken my knife out. But they gave us instructions on nobody could leave the race until the president was gone, had left. So we're all sitting around waiting. Well, they told us to leave the speech. They told us to go out to the right-hand side and meet a redcoat or a checkered flag committee. I get out there. Well, what's sitting there is the limo with Secret Service agents, because unbeknownst to us and probably anybody else, the president was going to go out that door to go into that gate. Well, I'm going out there, and he goes, "What are you guys doing?" I go, "Well, this is where they told us to go to meet a guy with a red jacket." And he walked on down toward the gate. He goes, "There are no red jackets out here. Get back on the other side." I said, he had all the credentials to say
We're
that.
glad you're here with us today. So,
I did not say, well, I'm supposed to. I just said, "Yes, sir." And Derek and I made our way back in and made our way out. And then we got trapped in a place where we should have been but couldn't have been, or maybe shouldn't have been, but we were trapped there. And then we got trapped in the after race and couldn't leave. And we had to be there at 10 o'clock. So we were there from 10 o'clock till 4:30. But it was a great experience, and I'm just happy that it happened. Now at 11:36, we will recess till lunch, and we'll be back here at 1:30.
We'll be
Not
across
here,
the street.
Not here.
Yeah.
At the courthouse for the
Second floor, the historic courthouse,
Courthouse.
training room at the top of the elevator there when you come out.
All right, we recess till then.